Hello, Aldersgate family and friends of Aldersgate. I am Lisa, and I'm bringing you your daily devotion for today. And I'd like to talk about sheep today. As a lot of you know, I work out at historic Brattonsville, and we keep a small flock of sheep out there. We raise Gulf Coast sheep, which are descended from Mediterranean sheep. I'd like to think they're at least a little similar to the sheep from biblical times. Like most people, I'd never really been around sheep before. That's not an animal we encounter in our daily lives. But spending time with them at work, I've gotten really kind of fond of them. They're really cool. And I've noticed some things about sheep that remind me of the sheep in Scripture. Sheep are mentioned more than 500 times in the Bible, more than any other animal in the Bible. And they are often used as a metaphor for the children of God, and sometimes even for Christ himself. Which makes you wonder why they're used that way. What makes a sheep a good representative of a Christian? Because there are some aspects of sheep that some people might not want to be associated with. For example, sheep are, let's face it, not very smart. They get caught in fences, they don't sleep in the safest places at night sometimes. I've been told they only have the mental capacity to remember about 6 people. If we have their memories are so short, if we have to take a lamb to the vet overnight, there's a very real danger that when it comes back, the ewe will have forgotten that it ever had a lamb and will refuse to feed it. If we put their food in their trough, but then they see us take another bucket of food to maybe the pigs or the cattle, they forget all about the food that they've got and chase after the new bucket. So they have short memories and they have zero impulse control. Sheep will always follow a leader, even a bad one. In my experience, they'll always follow a feed bucket, no matter who's got it. If they think you've got something tasty to offer, they will be all over you. And without that kind of motivation, they'll just follow whoever looks like they know what they're doing. I once found a dead bird in their water trough. This happens every now and then. And I scooped it out with a pitchfork and carried it across the pasture to pitch it over the fence into the woods. And partway there, I started hearing noise behind me, and when I turned around and looked behind me, the whole flock was parading along behind me. It looked like a funeral procession for the bird. I can't imagine what they thought they were going to get, but they were going to follow me because I looked like I was going somewhere important, even though they could see that all I had was a pitchfork and a dead bird. And sheep are not good under pressure. In a crisis, they freak out and they'll go with the first option that it presents itself. One day we let the flock out of the pasture and into the barnyard to graze. We used to do this fairly often. The grass is, of course, greener on the other side of the fence, and they always stayed pretty close to the pasture gate. But on this particular day, they're grazing along, peacefully minding their own business, when all of a sudden we are descended upon by an excited group of 4th graders. So the first sheep to spot this shrieking horde, instead of running to the safety of the pasture behind them, where everything would have been fine, the gate was open. It was literally right there. But this first sheep took off into the trees. The rest of the flock decided that was a good idea and went with them. And then 5 of us on staff spent the next 3 or 4 hours chasing sheep through the woods in the pouring rain. We tried to herd them, we tried to lure them with feed buckets, but when they were panicked, they just kept making bad decisions. Some of them spent the night in the woods because we could not get them caught. So, why would Scripture tell us to be like sheep? Because sheep do really well, they thrive even, when they have a shepherd. Once the sheep know who the shepherd is, they'll follow him anywhere. In all of the examples I've just given of sheep behavior, the person that the sheep see as their shepherd wasn't there. In the Bible, John 10 verses 2 through 4 says, "The one who enters by the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep listen to his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out all his own, he goes on ahead of them, and his sheep will follow him because they know his voice." At Brattonsville, the historic farm program manager is the shepherd of our sheep, and they all know his voice. He doesn't even need to call them by name. When he needs them to come eat or to come into the night pen so that they can sleep safely, He just stands by the pasture gate and yells, "Bah." I'm not kidding. I've seen him do it. It works. They come right away. They know his voice. Another example, this last spring, one of our ewes had twins, but she wasn't producing enough milk to feed both of them. So the farm manager took one of them home and bottle fed her, and that included getting up 3 or 4 times a night to feed the baby lamb. They also, at that time at his house, had a baby human, and his wife said she got the better deal because their daughter was sleeping through the night. The lamb was not. But it was the best way for them to make sure that she got everything she needed to grow up happy and healthy. And when this lamb gets big enough to return to the flock, we're hoping that she'll be comfortable enough with humans that we can use her to teach children about sheep. And they can get close to her and touch her and actually interact with her. And see what sheep are all about. So the Bible tells us to be like sheep and encourages us to accept Christ as our shepherd so that he can protect us and he can provide everything that we need. When others see us answering our shepherd's call, they can follow us to him, and they can benefit from his care as well. Thank you for listening today, and hope to worship with you on Sunday.